Welcome to the Winnie Podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Winnie and Lacy.
Welcome in. We are back for another scintillating conversation about something that has been coming up quite often in a number of conversations that we have with our ranchers who do cattle. What was that phrase? Like preparing for the bad times and the good times, which seems sort of like an oxymoron. And so why don't you describe, because you and Reed have cattle, right? So explain to us what we mean when we say this is good times. This is good times for those of us who have cattle, but it could also mean bad times. And I was like a little confused by that statement at first.
Yeah. So what we've seen and what the market has been experiencing is record high prices of the cattle that are going through the markets. And so I remember like years ago, someone saying to me, things are really good right now in the oil field, but there will be a crash. And I was young and naive, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? No, it's always going to be like this. So how can we as ranchers and people in the ag industry, how can we capitalize on what is going on right now in the market so that when those downturns, when those bad times come, how can we be more prepared and more self-sufficient, not reliant so much on the lending institutions? Because, we have calves that are 600 to 700 pound calves going for like $4,000. And that's just wild. It's wild. So if you talk about like, okay, a liner load of calves could be worth $400,000. How can we make every dollar that is coming into us in these good times work for us? How can we put it to work forever? Or how can we make these good times last through those downturns? We were visiting with a neighbor last week. He's like, I'm a beef producer and I can't go to a restaurant and buy a steak. Like, are you kidding me? This was funny. They were at a high-end restaurant in Calgary and he started having a conversation with the manager of the restaurant and ended up getting his meal comped because he just was talking with the manager, he came around like, how is your food? And he's like, well, I hope that steak is cooked to perfection because I'm a beef producer and I just paid $60 for that steak. And so they just started having a conversation. And anyways, his meal ended up being comped because the manager said, you took the time to visit with me and your steak got cold because you wanted to be present in that conversation. And so they had this fully rounded conversation about being a beef producer, how my freezer at home is full of ribeye steak, but I can't come to a restaurant and fathom paying $60 for a steak. So that was an interesting conversation. But when we're talking about a liner load, like I live by a highway and I see like it's going to start getting busy with sale days and you're going to see those liners. And when you're in that industry, you see that is somebody's livelihood going down the road. And when that liner is worth $400,000, that's huge.
Yeah. And I think to like preaching to the choir for most of the listeners on here, but I also know that a lot of people who listen to this may not exactly know this industry at all. And it's relative, right? It's all relative. But you guys work all year round and you're waiting for this to be your living, and expenses are different. So it's relative to the size of the numbers. And like most agricultural people, have more money run through their hands than most city folks and can touch in a 5 to 10 year period, I think, most times. So this brings me to another, it feels like a double-edged sword. So like I've been sitting in on these conversations, having these conversations. It feels very similar to what's happening here in the city in the sense of our real estate. Places and homes are going at a higher price. But it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Okay, you sell it, but then you also got to buy something to live in. So if it's selling high, then you have to buy high. So isn't that also a bit of a conundrum too? Because what's the turnover? So you can sell, but then it's not like you can buy low and like there's some of that profit margin left behind. So there's got to be like in terms of the next turnover for to profit for the next year, you may not be able to buy as much.
Or else you have to sacrifice your location. We have friends who are renting in the city and they're planning to buy, but they're looking at a smaller town to buy in.
But what happens as it relates to the ranching world, the cattle world, for beef producers? What happens? So if you have to sell high, how can you,
buy high?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that goes hand in hand with, we are in business with Reed's uncle, and majority of what we run is yearlings. So we buy calves in the fall that are weaned. We background them all winter, put them on grass all summer, and they start getting shipped in September. And so I think that this year, if it doesn't prove anything else, it proves that we need to be able to pivot. So, okay, if calves are selling high, that means we have to buy high to have our inventory that we have for over the winter and the summer. But so we haven't fully decided what we're doing. And I will say Reed and Brad make those decisions and are more or less the decision makers on that. But we are looking at pivoting a bit. It's like, okay, we have X number of yearlings this year. We probably can't buy that many this year. What is it going to look like? And also what does the future look like? Like the market with running the yearlings is more volatile. And so we're actually we're like, oh, maybe we need to buy bred cows instead. So being able to, one, weather the downtimes. So for us, yes, the market is high and we have some calves that we're going to sell high, but also it's a pivot point for us too. What are we going to do? Okay, maybe we do buy some bred cows. And so I think it speaks volumes to, one, being prepared, taking advantage in the good times and when the market is high. Something that I was reading lately is being content. And I think in a world where this goes back to a podcast episode that I listened to, where we have 48 million ads popping at us every day, all day long, every time we turn on a phone. It's no different in this ag industry. Being content with where our operation is, what our goals are for the future, and doing what we need to do in those high times to prepare for those bad times. Not worrying about what our neighbor's doing, not worrying about what the media says we need to do, figuring out what our goals are and what we want to. We talked about security on our last episode. What is going to make us secure in those bad times and those lows and those valleys, and figuring out how we create that in these high times.
I love this particular subject because what really comes up for me is a number of things. One of the first things that really come to mind is, we'll go back to the words pivot. What allows any of us, no matter what we're doing, no matter what field we're in, whether we're in the agricultural world or whether we're living in the city doing blue collar things, it doesn't really matter. being able to pivot means what kind of choices do we have? Our choices are quite often limited by what we have for cash flow.
Yeah.
And so coming back to how this relates to you and what we do in terms of how Lacy and I serve you in strengthening your mindset and living the infinite banking concept in your mind. Every single decision we make around money has a result and compounds over a period of time. You're either going to have less cash flow or more cash flow. There can be different things that produce cash flow and bring money to us. And then there's lots of things that can happen that move that money away from us, like your appliances this past week, right? Like, 3 appliances going all
Side note.
down.
Yeah. Side note. Okay. Our TV quit working.
TV now?
Oh, well, our TV quit working at the beginning of the summer, but I honestly could go the rest of my life without watching TV. Like, it's just not something that is important to me. And one, I hardly ever sit down. So that's that. So I'm like, I'm not buying a TV right now. And it's a summer. We're outside till it's dark. We're not buying a TV. And nobody else cared either. And so our TV has been broken all summer. Our freezer in the fridge part upstairs in our kitchen, it quit working this week. Our washing machine quit working this week. And our dishwasher quit working a few weeks ago. So it's like 4 things. And I'm like, I told Reed, well, I guess, I don't know, go find me a washboard. I'm not using a washboard. So instead of finding me a washboard, he had some help loading up the washing machine and we drove it into town. Hopefully it's going to be fixed. But things like this happen and these times come when it's like, but you know what? I said to Reed, we dropped the washing machine off. I said, I want to run into Safeway and get some frozen veggies. I came out and I'm like, you know what? The vegetables that I buy were on sale. So we are winning.
There you go. There you go. So, which comes back around to weathering good times, bad times, being able to pivot. And I feel it's like a combination of several different things, right? And so when you develop a clear systematic way of saying, okay, what is the basis and the foundation in which I make my cash flow decisions? When you're clear about that, it gets easier, right? And you want to pick a system that basically allows your money to continue working for you when you need it, right? So if you're doing your best and you're financing your life the infinite banking way, every time you spend money, but by the time you replenish it and come back, there's more to borrow from than when you first started. You cannot do that if you're always in buy everything cash mode, finance everything through the bank, do leasing payments. You are not going to get that same level of a positive bell curve with your cash flow with every single purchase that you make. And how many do you guys make? For you guys who have the opportunity and you guys are into the hundreds of thousands when we're, of money running through your head, you're missing out on so much opportunity of making that money forever work for you before it leaves your pocket. You guys are so used to having the money come in and then paying out somebody else first. You got to switch that around. Make that money work for you before it leaves your hands, whether it's to CRA, whether it's to whatever. You got to make that money work for you before it goes. Yep. And the other ways to creating more options when you need to pivot this or that is also knowing that you can turn up the dial by creating more control. It's not just how much more cash flow you have, it's where you have all the control. Yeah. If most of your financing is with the bank, you have less control. If you own most of your debt through your own bank, you have more control and more ability to pivot in ways in which others cannot. Really important.
Yeah. And this reminds me of a couple things I underlined if I go all the way back to where Nelson talks about Parkinson's law, where he just talks about the behavior of individuals. So he just states, if you cannot overcome or if you cannot think through every decision that you make around money, you are destined to become a slave. So if we can't overcome these problems and what we're faced with, and I'll say it again, with the phones and the media and the YouTubes and, all the information flowing at us all day, every single day, if we can't overcome that, we will become a slave to the lender.
Yeah, I have to find that picture of Nelson somewhere. Like he used to go up on stage with like big, like earmuffs, not earmuffs, but like ear defenders. It's about tuning out all the noise.
Yep.
It does. If you have information overload, it's like if you're constantly surviving to think about the next moment to the next moment to the next moment.
Yeah.
It becomes increasingly difficult to make sound, practical, great long-term like decisions that are going to impact the benefit for the long term.
Yeah. And I think it seems like the last episode and this episode kind of like focus has been a topic, but like staying focused and in line with what you want or where you want to go, because what the next person has or where they're going may not, yes, it might be really nice and really appealing, but that might not line up with what I want deep down or what I'm working toward deep down. And so I think it's important to remember to stay true to yourself. And I read earlier this week, like you can say, okay, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do a lot of reading. And I read somewhere, it's like the only person I'm competing with is who I was yesterday.
Is this the gap in the gain?
It might be the gap in the gain, but I can't remember because I usually have a couple different things on the go. But yeah, the only person that you should be competing with is who you were yesterday. And and overcoming those temptations every single day that are thrown at us and staying focused on one, having options, being able to pivot when we need to, downtimes if we go back to the Bible, Nelson referenced the Bible all the time. God did not promise us that we would not have hard times. But what he did promise us is that he would provide a way through those hard times. I think it's so important for us all to remember that yes, there will be hard times, but yes, there is a way.
Just as Nelson found his way and really became insightful and conceived the infinite banking concept as a result through his hard times and found a way without having to give up everything he worked so hard for to date. So yeah, our ability to protect what we're thinking so that we and protect our ability to feel empowered about our own situation, especially through hard times, is not something that you can create during the hard time. It's something that has to be created through what we're doing on a day-to-day level. And certainly the double-edged sword of having great beef prices and then of course having to buy high and how that might, I got a little fly in front of me. It's like it's in my face and I don't want to eat the bug. So I hope that today really empowered all of you on the other end listening.
Being in the industry ourselves, I'm just so happy for all of you. I hope that you get incredible prices for the animals that you are selling. And I hope that it provides opportunities for your families and your operation that maybe wouldn't have been or maybe would have taken a lot longer. I hope that you prepare for the bad times in these good times. And yeah, I think, going back, we're all after the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a lawyer, work at the bottle depot. We're all just out to make a living, live a good life, and not feel like we don't have enough. And so, yeah, it's an exciting time in the beef industry for sure. Exciting time, but it's also okay, this probably isn't going to last forever. So let's be smart about this. So decide.
I love this. I love this sentiment. I love this sentiment.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Decide where you want to go, and don't worry about what the neighbor's doing. Doesn't matter what the neighbor's doing. It matters what you're doing and what path that you want to see yourself and where you want to see yourself in a year or 5 years or whatever it is. And so if what Winnie and I talk about resonates with you of like, hey, how can we take advantage of these calf checks right now and put it to work forever and do all of these things that we talk about in our 70 plus episodes, heading over to our website and grabbing the book. Like, your journey truly does start with rancherway.com, grabbing your copy of Farming Without the Bank that's sitting behind me, or Becoming Your Own Banker, because you know what? It all started with Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. And so his message is what we are faithful in continuing on, because without him creating this, we wouldn't be sitting here today sharing what we share about infinite banking and how we help people. So if that resonates with you, you know what to do. rancherway.com. Head over to YouTube. If you like to watch podcasts, we are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review. And we're also now on iHeartRadio. So there are no excuses as to not be able to find us.
Mm-hmm.
So
I only want to say this, and I'd love to see more opportunity with people going on to rancherway.com, where you go onto /podcast. There's a place right there where if there is something that you really want us to dig into or talk about, or you want us to answer, please put in your requests there, and more than happy to do that.
Awesome. Yes, we would love to hear what you want us to talk about. We'll do our best to address that. So happy fall. Here's to the high prices. May they be with you.
So glad you leaned in with us on the Winnie podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.